Hello and welcome everybody to this week's Hump Day Hangout. I am Terry McGrath, Assistant Fire Chief, Louisville, Texas. If you are a normal visitor to this Wednesday, the third Wednesday of every month, looking for the original cast of characters, we've got some new faces on here with me this week. Chief Lasky and Chief Salk, I believe, are teaching, speaking the good word somewhere, and providing some wisdom, imparting their wisdom on some willing participants somewhere across this country. And I think Scott Thompson is in a cabin in Colorado on a much needed, much warranted vacation. I'll say that on the show. I won't say that to his face. But so anyway, I was the lone man standing this week, and so I reached out to a very good friend of mine, a very smart guy, and asked him to join us this week, and he was able to bring on somebody else. So I think we've got a great hour planned today. Just to remind you, if you want to participate or have anything you want to add to today's show, the easiest way to do that is to go on Twitter and use hashtag FETalk. And if you do, that should show up in our feed, and the producer will throw it up for us so that we can certainly recognize that or address any comments if you all have any. Just as a reminder, FDIC is April 24th through the 29th. FDIC.com to register to get additional information on the agenda. Lots of great programs, including everyone that is normally on this show. Chief Lasky, Chief Salko will be there. Chief Thompson is got a very exciting opportunity this year, so we're glad for him. And of course, it's going to be a bittersweet conference this year with the passing of Bobby Halton, and so it's certainly I think any year is not to be missed. This year in particular, I think will be a great time to remember a great person and somebody who has reached out and touched each and every one of us in his own special way. So again, that's April 24th through the 29th, 2023, FDIC.com for information. So don't delay. I don't know. Here's February. If you tell people don't delay on getting registered, you may already be late as far as hotel rooms and that sort of thing. But certainly reach out and try to get registered. We assure you that it will be a great time this year. This week, I've got Chief Paul Henley, who is the Fire Chief of Flower Mound Fire Department, which is actually our neighbor to the west here in the Metroplex to Louisville. And Chief Henley was kind enough to bring on a really smart guy to help us with today's subjects, and that's Chief Bobby Abbott out of Lake Travis Fire Department, which is down around the Austin area. Chief Henley moved into the the president of the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, and that occurred, I guess, January 1, Chief. I'm assuming that was when that transition took place.
Yes,
and
sir.
then I think Chief Abbott helps him and has done for a while with the legislative agenda of the Texas Fire Chiefs. So when we were talking about, or why I guess this seemed interesting to me, this subject matter, or to spend an hour talking about what the Texas Fire Chiefs role, and we say Texas Fire Chiefs Association, but I think the information is applicable to anyone, anywhere, because we're all dealing with the same challenges and issues across this country within the fire service. And I think at the end of the day, all of us are intent, and the reason we get up every morning is we're trying to make it better. We're trying to fix the issues. We're trying to make this profession, the fire service, keep it as an incredible career, incredible profession. And so I think the end goal is, whether you're a labor group, whether you're a fire chief, the association, the firefighter association, we're all working for the same thing. And I think it behooves all of us to kind of understand what we're all doing, so that we can collaborate and help each other out and further the cause out there and make this better. So what we're going to spend the next hour is talking to Paul and Bobby about I want to talk a little bit about Texas Fire Chiefs and some of the things that they are involved in, and kind of offer up some explanation for people like myself who I am a member of the Fire Chiefs Association, and I certainly go to activities like the conferences and classes, and when they align with everyone's busy schedule. It's not the easiest thing to do, but the one thing I have found is the more I am involved and the more I have conversations like we're going to have today, I think the more you get a better perspective of really the amount of work that's being done out there on all of our behalf. And whether you're a firefighter on the tailboard, or you're running an organization, or you're somewhere in the middle, everything that we talk about today will apply to you, because again, a fire chief's job is not to go out there and further their own interest. It's not to go out there and further their they don't wall themselves off and just make administration better. Their goal, their job, their responsibility is to make this better for the communities we serve and for the organizations that we serve. And so, and I think that I say that I think that vision or that idea is shared by these two chiefs here today. But with that being said, first of all, I say welcome, Chief Henley. Appreciate you getting on, and Chief Abbott, I appreciate you guys getting on today to talk about this.
Well, I tell you what, thanks for that wonderful introduction. I think the smart one you were talking about is Chief Abbott down there. He's been a part of our legislative committee for many years. I've served on that committee with him, and I know his dedication to that topic, which we'll get into very soon. But for me, yeah, I get to be neighbors to the Great Louisville Fire Department for sure. And you mentioned, John Salka, and you mentioned Chief Lasky and Chief Thompson. I tell you, those have been mentors of mine through my career for sure. I love the Hump Day Hangouts. I watch those religiously. And Terry, for you being a good neighbor, we're trying to be a good neighbor. I've had this post now for about a year and a half. Fire Chief, we all know it has its own challenges, but we have good partners in our Louisville brothers and sisters, and we love what you guys are doing, and we try to potentiate that. And this new training center that we're going in together is really going to be a game changer for all of our departments, including our other partner, Highland Village. So super excited about learning from you guys and with you guys. And again, kudos to this show and all that make it happen, because it has been a wealth of knowledge in many topical areas, especially as a chief, and we want some other insight. It's a good resource for us to look at and say, hey, what are other people saying, right? And there's the great one himself, Chief Lasky. How are you? Welcome, sir.
I'm doing good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sure can.
I'm in we're taking a break here in Tennessee for class, so I want to be able to jump in there, but
I just figured when Chief Henley said Chief Lasky's been a mentor idol of mine, and all of a sudden you popped up, and I thought, get out of here with that.
Yeah, it's magic, right?
But real quick, let me just throw this out there, Chief. Terry, you know this. We've talked about it plenty of times, and I talk about it in classes. I was just in Portland, Oregon the other day, and before that down in Houston. But you talk about those favorite fire departments that you have, especially as a chief. Whether you're fighting, when you're running a scene and you got mutual aid coming in, and you turn, you go, God, I'm so glad they're here. Not to knock anybody else. There's some great fire departments in the Metroplex. I always do that with Flowermont. I've said that before. They're loaded full of great officers, great men and women. And I turn around and this is how I joke, Joe. I'm sitting there going, excuse me. I go, you could tell the guys from like Flowermont and go, hey, guys, come here for a second. Look, I hate to do this, but see those shovels? Go over there and you got to move all that horse shit to another area and let these guys go with the fire. They go, all right, Chief, and they high five. They don't care. They're just so awesome. So, Louisville's surrounded by some great fire departments. And so there's some good things going on over there. But anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So
yeah, I think we potentiate one another very well. And it's great to be back in the Metroplex, especially in this role. And as Chief Lasky said, to to lead a great bunch of men and women that are public servants first, and will do anything in the service of our public, and whatever that is. It could be anything on any given day, and they do it with love, respect, tenacity, and excellence. And I think that is born out of leadership in this area, right? From Chief Lasky to Bobby, when he was a little south of us there in Capel. And so, and now with Chief McNeil and Terry, your leadership and what we're doing in this region, I think people are going to stand up and take notice on how we're playing very well together, first of all, but also getting some economies of scale in some of the things we're doing. So some of the topics, Terry, you and I have already discussed, we want to further that with some of the AVL things. And I want to talk about that from the Texas Fire Chief's perspective as well, and TIFMAS and how that's going. But yes, January 1, the phone started ringing. So I knew it was my turn at the helm, so to speak. And I probably need to remind all the people that elected me to third vice president that eventually, we move up to second to first, and we take the post. So it's their fault, but here I am. I'm going to.
You got a good counselor, you got a good therapist, and
yeah.
I mean, you're gonna, besides being a chief, now it's like, well, I have a counselor I deal with just for work, and I've got one I have to go to for this because. All kidding, and we're all very big and embrace mental health awareness and EAP. I don't want to be thinking anything wrong, but I'm just saying the stress that goes along with just being a fire chief, let alone trying to, fill that leadership role when it comes to a state organization. And I'll say it, very selfishly, I'm very proud of the Texas Fire Chiefs Association because they do some pretty incredible things. And there's a handful of organizations out there that are cutting edge when it comes to bosses doing what they're doing. And I'm just to say it, Texas is one of them. So hallelujah.
Well, we got a conference coming up in March, and I told Terry that there's a Wednesday in there that you guys could be live from Waco in our convention. I would love that for sure. But yeah, day one, the phone started ringing, and it's bigger than all of us, right? We're bigger than all of us, and so from the legislative piece to the health and wellness piece that Chief Lasky just mentioned, to our best practices, our Fire Chief Academy, which is second to none. I'm so proud of that and what we're doing, and I would love to touch on all those. But I really want to give Chief Abbott a chance to introduce himself as well. Tell us what he does down there at Lake Travis and how he serves the Texas Fire Chiefs. And Terry, after that, you can open any topical area you want, sir.
You talking about the Lake Travis? Are we talking about that?
The
Lake Travis. Good God, I don't want to hear any complaints about where he lives. Okay, I really don't, because I'm
pretty nice.
You, that is nice, dude. That is nice.
Yeah,
it is nice, and I'm blessed, like all of you, to be working for organizations that are, in most days and most hours, supportive of what we're trying to do as leaders. The teams that we've amassed collectively, I know sometimes we compete for employees, but it's a great crop of folks. And, when you look back on a rewarding career, as all of you have had and still manage and are providing for others, it is one of the best industries we have is public safety. And there's very, very few industries like it that have not just the demands and complexities and the stresses and the enjoyments, but the opportunities to actually make impact. In life, you go and, at your funeral, they can say, this person left a mark on whatever they touched. And then there's people who leave impact. And I'm not saying that people who leave a mark didn't do anything. They obviously did something to be recognized and respected by their families and peers and everybody they touch. And then there's folks that leave impact. And usually the people who leave impact don't talk much about it, because they're more interested about making the impact and moving on and getting somebody else to make impact. And I think that's really a good moment when we talk about legislation. It's a dry subject. I mean, it ranks up right there with hazmat, right? If you were gonna talk about it, legislative things, and as we lead through this legislative process and the things that everybody, not just in Texas, but anybody listening in any state in the U.S. and throughout the world have issues with. It's just a different state attached to a different local body working through it. End of the day, though, it is the same thing. And I think this platform is an excellent vehicle to talk about where we are collectively as leaders trying to navigate these challenging times coming out of the pandemic, going into what could be a rocky economic period, depending where you are in the U.S. I don't think anybody's immune to this one. I think it's going to touch everybody in some way or fashion, some more than others. But yeah, so Bobby Abbott, Lake Travis Fire. I've been privileged to lead this organization for a couple of years. I've been here for 27 years and been the legislative chair for the Texas Fire Chiefs Association for, I don't know, I measure it by kind of sessions, actually. I don't know how many years, but sessions, kind of like dog years, every other year is a session. So I'd say about 6 or 8 years I've been involved legislatively at different roles, different levels. But my background is politics. I came through the union. I was a union president. And I was like, I can't wait until I go over to the dark side to get out of politics. And man, was I misinformed, intentionally misinformed, I think, by my friends and leaders above me.
But you got your piles. You got your piles right. I noticed behind you. You know, when you're an assistant, when you're a deputy with 3 trumpets, you have like a couple piles, and then assistants. Like if you look at there now, you got all the chief piles behind you on your desk there, so you're good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So I think you know, and this goes to a testament to everything we're trying to do. When we spoke to our membership and people within the state about what is impacting them at their home, you know, because all politics are local. Every single politic that we deal with at the state and even at the federal level started local. You can all trace all the things going on when you see in CNN and whatever news outlet you choose to watch or believe that day. It all comes from a local somebody saying something. And we put together a pretty audacious agenda this session because there's a lot to monitor. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of last minute deals that could have impact on how we do business. And it's changing. It changes, you know, we measure the change by the day during the session because it doesn't take long for something to shift. And then the ripple effect in what we do out on the streets, our associations, our boards, everything associated with it they have to react to that. And they have to, you know, figure out what position and posture they're going to take on some things. So that's kind of a little bit about me, and just happy to be here and the opportunity. And I'll hand it back to Paul.
So Chief Lasky, I got to ask Chief Lasky though. You know, you mentioned Bobby's background. Let's look at Terry's background. It looks like he's got a go bag ready to be gone in any minute. He's got a box.
Friday, we've been in this building. What was this, Chief? 72, 74 been in this building?
Yes.
Friday is move day.
Oh, there you go.
We are, yep. And Friday's move day. Everything's coming off the walls. I got tape telling the movers what cubicle I'm going to in the temporary building. So yeah, no, there's a lot going on right here.
Nice.
A lot going on.
But the end run is going to be very exciting there. But you know, I want to back up for a second on 2 things. One is, you know, obviously it's going to take me a while to get used to not seeing Bobby's face on this show. He was such a fixture, especially issues and challenges that started with just me, John, and Bobby at FDIC, then the show. And then the best advice he ever gave me was to get Terry as my co-host, because Terry's incredible. Then we got Scott Thompson, we got John. So to really have guys on like you. And I just want to go back to one of the things I always brag about when it comes to the Texas Fire Chiefs Association. While there are a lot of people out there that are embracing mental health awareness, some are doing okay, some are not doing good at all. Our state has really, and I bring up Bobby because Bobby, Terry, you remember this, wrapped his arms around that whole thing where, you know, we're finally at a point where we're training firefighters. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to talk to someone. It's not normal to see what a firefighter sees. And to have a state organization that has embraced that as well, because the Texas Fire Chiefs does have a huge impact on what goes on in that state. First of all, that's awesome. I think that's great when it comes to that part of it. The other part of it is just, I want to go back to having, you know, we used to laugh about having someone from the union or association become part of the command staff in different places, because it's like dogs and cats playing together. And I think one of the nice things about it is I've seen it is when you can bring someone from the labor side in on the administrative side, the command staff side, there's a quick realization that there's a whole lot going on in there that I wasn't aware of. But on the other hand, I think it brings a tremendous amount of information and a lot of talent to the table when you bring someone that has done that. Some chiefs are dead set against ever promoting. They'll do whatever they can to not promote someone who was especially the union president because they had a bad experience. On the other hand, I'm like, sometimes one of the best things you do is bring someone in that has the guy's best interest at heart, someone that, really was there for the people, for, the guys that knows that, unfortunately, and Terry, I like to do this, like to pick on fire chiefs a lot because they make it easy, but there's a lot of bosses forgot where they came from. The higher up they go, the further they get from the troops, and they forget that, the whole empathy and understanding of what's going on in firefighters' lives. You can walk into a firehouse and you can see it, you can smell it. And I think a lot of departments, and I'll just selfishly say down Texas, and I have the honor of traveling all over and seeing it. I should just say it, outside even the state of Texas, there's a lot that have that going on because their chiefs are still well-grounded, are still having coffee with the troops, they're still making calls. If you got to chase your fire chief around a golf course to have a conversation with him or her, then there's a problem. So being able to strike that balance, I think that's huge. Bringing someone with that labor background into the administrative command side, especially as a fire chief, because you can remember, I remember that, I remember this, where a lot of guys just can't, they don't have that in their toolbox to be able to refer or think back about what it was like, and they're missing that. So,
hey Chief, do you know Trisha Wolford? She's fire chief up in Anne Arundel County, Maryland.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
it's a great fire department.
At this chief leadership last week, anyway, she had a slide up there. She was talking about her relationship with her labor president. She had a T-shirt up there. She wears a T-shirt with an arrow on it that says "I'm with stupid." He wears a T-shirt with an arrow on it that says "I'm with stupid." She said we wear them to every meeting. And so, but anyway, and I mean, to your point right here is that you can fight this, or you can sit down and agree that you're not going to agree on everything, but the things you can agree on, hey, there's strength in numbers, and we're all working for the best of the organization. And so anyway, I thought that slide was awesome. What was funny was she said sometimes he forgets how to sit, and he sits, to the side where the arrow's pointing, like at the city manager or something. But
that's great.
So anyway, it was a great little part of her presentation, just speaking about the fact that we all have a job to do, whether you're representing firefighters as part of a union president, or you're representing firefighters as a fire chief. We all have a job to do, and again, we're not always going to agree. Sometimes we're just going to have to be civil about it and go our separate ways, and that's fine too. But at the end of the day, we're trying to do right by the people we serve and the people that are serving those people. And hey, so I kind of to start, Chief Henley, give me in a real I guess we talked about mental health, right? And I think that's probably on the top of most people's list, a hot issue. Give me two more things right now that are on the top of your agenda as the incoming president of the Texas Fire Chiefs, and things that will roll into, I'm sure, what legislative focus. And for those that are listening, our legislative session just started, last Tuesday?
Yeah.
In the interest of full disclosure, the only thing I know about legislative session is that song, I'm a bill on Capitol Hill kind of thing. Like I can still sing that, but that's my political savvy. But so let's talk about, we got mental health and safety for sure, but what's two other issues that are pressing with Texas Fire Chiefs that kind of roll in, and Chief Abbott jump in here, that roll into where your legislative focus or certainly where some attention's being focused?
Well, I'll start off with kind of leading the organization as a whole, and then I'll let Bobby kind of talk about where we're at in terms of on the legislative front. So I'll keep those two separate, if that's okay, Terry. And I do want to mention what you and Chief Lasky had both said as a former association president as well. It does not have that role does not have to be adversarial, for sure. And it starts with trust. And when I was the fire chief down in Corsicana for 4 years, what a great relationship we each had, because we were two-person staffing, and together we got to safe staffing. We didn't get to 1710 perfect staffing, but we got better because we worked together, and it was a great relationship. But for the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, first of all, I'm blessed to even be a part of that wonderful organization. I'm standing on the shoulders of men and women that built that before I got here. And most recently, we had a kind of a resurgence with Chief Huckabee, and then with Chief Stevens and Chief Donnie Norman, who's who just finished his tenure. My goal is they built me a great foundation, and my goal is to enhance that and provide member value added benefit. And that means I want to take a little page from our partners at the International Association of Fire Chiefs and do better at communication. Because you know what, if I am having a problem, now I have the luxury of calling Terry, what are you guys doing over there, or some other Metroplex chiefs. I would love to be a clearinghouse for information with our website, right? I want to make sure that we can answer questions, or we provide information, or you guys as members know where we stand on a particular topic. For instance, we want to support TFS, we want to support TCFP, we want to support TIFMAS in their budget request to the legislature. So, you know, we'll get a letter pinned. I've already got one pinned in support of those budgets and why it's important that they get those budgetary priorities that they're looking at, and how that can help the Texas Fire Service in general if they do get those allocations that they're asking for, and how we move forward. For me, so that's number one is member value added benefit. Why should you be a member? Well, because we're on top of it legislatively. I need to give Candy Flores, he's the fire chief of Abilene. He is the chair of our health and wellness committee. I said, I told him, Chief, whatever you need, because health and wellness is such a big scope. We've got cancer initiatives, we got mental health initiatives, we've got NFPA medical standards that we want to try to hit. How do I support you in terms of bolstering that committee, providing funding, providing information, and those sorts of things? So that's a very active committee. And my number two priority, honestly, is to protect the brand, right? Just trademarked, by the way, but it's protecting this brand. I am so fortunate to what Chief Lasky had mentioned. Again, those that have come before us built this brand. They built it to a point now where the CFE credential for Fire Chiefs Academy that we produce, we just rewrote the curriculum. I was on the committee that did that. As Chief Stevens will tell you, I still haven't gone through it, although I've been there to almost every session. I still haven't formally gone through it, but we rewrote the curriculum. We teach in it, and it trains chief officers, right? As Chief Grammer said, my first chief, you don't know what you don't know. And so we try to give them a little bit of what they don't know in this Chief Academy. And that credential, that CFE credential, is now being sought after by towns and cities as a prerequisite for getting a fire chief job. That's humbling to know that your program hits those metrics and those merits. And so for me, it's bolstering that brand and making sure our Fire Chief Academy is still top notch. It meets the rigor that it needs to meet to train new chief officers in how to be 5 bugles, right? 4 bugles and 5 bugles. Now we have second in command that's going on next week for our number twos in a safe space to kind of talk about either us as fire chiefs or the things that they see in the industry that need some help and need some guidance. And they always come back from a great workshop with action items for us on the e-board to do. The other thing is that best practices, which we'll get into as well, Terry. I'm revamping what it means to be best practices, because that's another thing. We've got about 32 in the whole state that are certified as best practices department. I'm going for my second one. I got it in Corsicana, going here for Flower Mound. We're under our review. But that also has to mean something, and it has to meet a rigor that credential, when you see that logo on the trucks or in admin, that it means something, that you met a criteria that kind of rises above the rest. And we want to make sure we protect that. And I'll kind of give it to Bobby for our legislative priorities. Chief?
Yeah, so on the heels of what Paul said, when we polled all the members of the association, we heard not only concerns that they had relating to how we're going to operate in this new world, whatever this new world looks like post-COVID and post these other things like civil unrest, justice reform, equity and equality among our employees, inclusion, and all these things. There's a long list of things that we are in our monitoring legislatively, but that same list and that same agenda could be used in New Jersey and Maine or California. I mean, it's things that we're all facing specifically. And we prioritize that on a survey to our members, plus also feedback one-on-one. We have a standing committee that we've been working with for a long time. And I would break it up into 3 areas. By priority, health and safety still rises to the top of every fire chief we've talked to. Now, they may have one particular district or city, whoever may have an issue with funding, and that is the hot topic there. But as a large and sounding majority, health and safety still weighs on the shoulders of fire chiefs, without a doubt. And it's reflective in what their concerns are. If we could get a bill, if we could get laws passed that reduce our liability or make us immune to any liability when we move a vehicle out of the roadway, if law enforcement's not there, in some ways, in some cities and districts are already doing this, they're moving the vehicles out, period, and taking whatever liability comes along, because the greater liability would be having that vehicle in the street and getting hit after all the care has been rendered. So you can't hit what's not there is the kind of concept. So if we can get these vehicles out of the roadways, it will go a long way to keeping our roadways safe for us and our public safety partners and the community. In addition to PTSD, cancer, any variation of COVID, any new thing coming down the pipe, how that impacts our workforce. A lot of us went through waves in the last 2 years when we were, we had nobody to come to work because everybody was out with COVID. Maybe we go a week or two and we had a couple out, and then we'd hit a wave and we have 20 out. And it impacted everybody, small and large alike. And the protections that are around these kind of illnesses and communicable diseases. There's discussion with legislation that was passed last session is with communicable diseases, does that include the flu? So if we have an employee walk into a fire station with the flu, they go home, and all of a sudden you have 4 other people at that same fire station with the flu within, 72 hours. Is that considered a communicable disease? And there's people that would argue it is, and then there's other people, maybe city managers, that say absolutely not. And it's somewhat of a gray area on that. In addition to what some of the associations, and if you've been in the game long enough, the cradle to grave concept that sometimes our associations and even ourselves as chiefs put to our bosses and our communities of the protections that we need to continue to do what we do and not have a diminishing workforce in the long run. If they think, well, if I get into public safety, while it's very rewarding and there's a lot of opportunity for growth, if I get hurt, if I get an illness, if I get put out or something like that, it's not going to take me all the way to where I need to be for the rest of my life. Now, if you go to other industries are going, we don't get that. We don't get the cradle to grave protections and so forth. But we are a unique industry, kind of like the military. And when you look at the liabilities that we bring forth with an inherent jobs that we do for the communities, it does come with some expectation of coverage, just like in the military. If we're going to do this, we do expect some coverage, and balancing that with what a employer can literally cover, manage, or through workers' comp, which there's a ton of concern over how that's been managed over the years. It's one of those things that we're at the Texas Fire Chiefs, not unlike the other states, are looking at with workers' comp and how we can really shape it. Because if I had the resources to go buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, I'm not buying basic insurance for that. I'm going to get a very specialized insurance to cover a very specialized kind of piece of equipment. And a lot of the insurances that we carry for our own teams are very, it's the same insurance that somebody that works in the front office down at the Parks Department also has for them for workers' comp. But their work and scope and inherent dangers are night and day different than what we're dealing with. So those insurance protections don't always pan out for us the way we would expect them they would. And an unfortunate part, a lot of times we don't know this until it's actually getting tested. And there's been organizations that have a great workers' comp programs because nobody's really tested them. And that's why in a lot of minds, they're still great. They've taken care of the broken, broken legs, the torn rotator cuffs, and whatever you have. But the minute you have a severe career-ending or life-ending event, that's when you realize your policy ain't what you thought it was. And that's what we're trying to test and trying to flush out without having to actually go that far and actually have a line of duty death in some cases to flush it out. So that is, I would say, priority for the Texas Fire Chiefs legislatively. And what we're doing is we don't have a hard stance on some of that right now because we have till March 10th to file bills. And there's a lot of speculation of what's coming and what's been filed already versus what will be filed. We don't know, as I said earlier, we don't know what we don't know. Now, we do know the conversation, and we do know that other organizations that we work with and our employers work with, TML being one of them, some of the other associations, they have very special interests in getting protections clean, simple, streamlined, and not overbearing to where it creates an undue, I'm using air quotes here if you can't see them, an undue burden to the taxpayer. And I get it. We have to be aware of those things. But at the same time, it can have a ripple effect on our ability to attract and retain quality folks, especially if they have other options, which a lot of people do nowadays. And so that's definitely forefront. And the second that has come up as a concern is funding, without a doubt. Now, we think back a couple sessions in Texas, if you're joining us from another state, a couple of years ago, Texas had a bill called SB2, Senate Bill 2, and it was really the great equalizer, if you will, among all taxing entities, no matter what you did, no matter who you are, no matter what part of the state you're in. It was the great equalizer in all our tax ad valorem abilities to fund our programs. And what it basically said is that if you go over a certain dollar amount in increases based on a whole bunch of other calculations we won't get into, it can trigger an election to where if you go over 3.5 of your budget and you're increasing 3.5% what you had last year, no matter how you got that, it could be a diverse portfolio of sales tax grants, not grants, I'm sorry, sales tax and ad valorem, or it could just be ad valorem period. Whatever the magic is, if you go over a certain amount, it's going to force an election to where the voters can approve to roll your effective tax rate back. Now, that could be for a city, a district, library district, emergency service district, it doesn't matter. And that's why we say it was the great equalizer, because throughout the state, a lot of these entities have different taxing abilities and different caps, but this was one that affected everybody. So with that in place, there is a ton of things, as you can imagine, through the way the legislative process is that didn't get in that bill that year, but legislators still want to come back and clean up. So while that bill was passed like 2 sessions ago, it still comes up in discussion because now we're seeing the remnants of what didn't make the bill that time around, just to get it in, to get it passed. So now we're seeing add-ons and add-ons and add-ons. So that is a big, big topic. In administration of our organizations is also another big one, and how we coexist together. And what we're seeing statewide is because of things like Senate Bill 2 and economic concerns that we had a couple sessions ago that we're going to have again here now, with all the things there, we all have to take a deep breath, put our egos aside, no matter what size department, no matter how you're governmentally structured, a fire district, municipality, we got to do this together. We got to find common ground. We got to find efficiencies, and we got to find ways to keep doing business. And that may actually, I think, bode well to reduce some of these barriers that we've self-imposed over the years just on whatever government we, grew up in, and the protections that we wanted to kind of protect our areas. But, I heard earlier, you guys are doing a collaborative training ground. You're doing some collaborative work together. You got projects popping. We have one project with a city where we're going to do a substantial city ESD. We're an ESD, but we cover 3 cities. And one of the cities we're working with right now is going to have a large capital improvement project that we're kicking millions into, and they're kicking millions into. And so far it's going great. So how do we coexist in this new world together? That would probably be our second group. Now, the third thing is probably where we're seeing questions come out of recent events that have impacted our operations or cities that we work with, and things like school shootings, things like civil unrest, and how those things were handled specifically has arose a big question to what is the best form of structure, of government, of funding, of regulatory bodies in the state of Texas for those kind of things. Would it be an all-inclusive omnibus kind of commission that would be over police, fire, EMS, public health, associated with all these things that we know? Or is it more of a hybrid of what we have now with some commissions over here, some departments over here, and in a combination? There's always, every session, a couple folks that get deployed out of the state, specifically to California is where we see this, that when they come back and they tout the CAL FIRE model of operation and fire management throughout the state as a good thing. And then you have people say, no, that wouldn't work here in Texas for a number of reasons. A couple of years ago, before he retired, right before he retired, Steve Pollock with the State Forestry Service, NAM Forestry Service, put a white paper out about some of those things and how we can work together. And he polled a number of people to put that paper together. That's still available online if you look for it. But that has remnants of people talking about pros and cons to statewide management, statewide leadership. There's a lot of chiefs that are for it. There's a lot of chiefs that just don't know where they are on it right now. And then there's some chiefs that are adamantly against it for a number of reasons. And I think it still needs a lot more time to percolate. I think it needs a lot more time for people to understand where their own organizations are going. One of the lead conversations I have when that topic comes up of a statewide consolidation or more management from the state over our incidents or whatever it may be, is some of these organizations don't know where they're going tomorrow. They really don't. They're kind of stuck in neutral, for whatever reason, whether it be chief transitions, whether it be leadership changes, whether it be budget funding cuts that, pull the rug out from underneath all their programming or what they were trying to do. Number of things have led to this issue. But when you look at it and you talk to somebody about somebody else coming to help them run their game and their day to day, obviously it's a point of pause for them to say, wait a minute, nobody's coming here telling me what to do. Well, if it starts getting linked to funding, your bosses may have a different take on that. If it starts getting linked to regulatory things that you can do with your work staff, you may have to adjust some of that thought. So I think we're in the early stages of what that could look like. It just needs to be flushed out more, and we just need to continue to have really candid conversations. And those conversations happen on forums like this right now. They happen at conferences, as we all know. They happen after hours a lot of times. And that's what really we're looking at and what that has impact on. So we're monitoring all of that. There are bills that I think Texas fire chiefs will come out in support of, adamantly support of. There's going to be some that we're probably neutral on, and then there's going to be some that we don't necessarily support, we don't oppose, or we'd really like to have an opportunity to shape some of that discussion in that bill. But if we just come in and say, we're shutting this down, we're shutting that down, we're shutting this down, it does create a ripple effect for all the other good stuff that people have agreed to help us with. And we have to be careful in some of the things that we ask for. And we just have to make sure our message is the same. One of the topics is the cancer ability and cancer protections, for example. If we're saying in one breath that we need more protection and more ability to serve our members that come down with cancer and preventable diseases that are occupationally linked, and on the other hand, we're asking for less regulation on some of the things that we think or science has shown may have led to some of those things, but we want less regulation on that. It's a very tight balancing act to how we do that. So on one hand, we're saying,
let me just jump in here, Chief Abbott, because you touched on something a minute ago, and I didn't want this moment to leave me, but and I know that I had a brief conversation with somebody. It was one of the battalion chiefs over in Garland, but they mentioned, and you talked about it, Chief Henley, was kind of a statewide AVL type of system or a technology focus. And I think the Texas Fire Chiefs is part of a conversation to try, and you kind of piqued my curiosity because you brought the Cal OES up, and that always kind of comes up in this conversation. But can you, Chief Henley, can you give us some insight on what that discussion is?
Sure can. Chief Abbott brought up a few great points in terms of kind of circling back to our conversation about associations and how we can benefit one another by, our firefighters associations working together. Same with TML. We sit on their board and we have great relationship with TML to make sure things like workers' comp, and we're on the same team, and we try to make it best. Mental wellness and health and fitness and everything for the betterment of our firefighters. And so It's about relationships there, right? Also for, and Terry, you showed me this in your organization when I first got here, and you have a little AVL thing going, which is pretty great. And we're close to getting on board with that, by the way. That actually kind of spurred a conversation, a bigger conversation for me, and a good friend, Scott Roseberry, who you mentioned out of Garland. For those of you who don't know, I did my first 14 years in Garland, all the way up through captain. Scott Roseberry, just a quick note, he's the only guy that ever beat me on a test, but I'm not bitter at all. But Scott's a smart guy. And he's very involved in technology, and I always perk up when he's talking about technology. And one of the things that they're doing in California that works very well is they're able to track all their resources. And so I could look at San Bernardino County and see where all their resources are. And Dan Muncie, who's the chief up there, we can see exactly what they're going to, and he can see across the state where they're going. And so that model for TIFMAS here, right, for our mutual aid, as well as just all of us, right, that to understand if I'm sending my guys into Louisville, or I'm mutual aiding to somewhere close, or if I'm at a deployment down south, we could see and track our units. And I think that is attractive to emergency management and Chief Kidd at the state level, and knowing where his units are that are being funded by TIFMAS and that agency in Texas, the Division of Emergency Management. So we're looking at a statewide concept, and I think TIFMAS is the proving ground. I think if we can do proof of concept with TIFMAS, because TIFMAS is all over the state at all these deployments, then we could really show state agencies what it could do, ask for some funding, and get us awareness across the state, and then multi-states, correct, right? So we could look at California or some other states that we're going to when we go out and help, as well as when neighbors come in and help our state, have that awareness of where the units are. Because to Chief Lasky's point, to Bobby's point, and to your point, Terry, safety is paramount. We got to make sure our guys are safe. When I send one of my guys on a deployment here as the fire chief of Flower Mound, I got a liaison with his family to make sure, hey, does the grass need cut? Do we need this? And I give their family an update. Hey, this is what they're doing. This is what wildfire they're on. This is what region they're in. And a system like we're talking about, and it's a CAL FIRE type system, helps us track our membership, helps us track our resources, and ultimately helps us keep them safe.
Well, and I want to jump in real quick because I've had the opportunity working with my volunteer department, Wichita West, and we get grass fires in that area all the time. We've been out, deployed several times, and I'll be honest with you, one of the biggest disappointments I have when we're running these large scale incidents is just how little the bosses know where their people are. It's like it's absolutely amazing. And I've got in my travels, I had tons of friends out in CAL FIRE and all that seem to do a pretty good job with it, but they've been doing it a lot longer. TIFMAS is actually still in its, if you want to talk about its infancy, if you really want to look at how far other people are doing things. And I pulled up and I've asked questions where they go, well, they went that away and we don't know. And the radios aren't, we're trying to get them on the radio. It just, sometimes it's been a big mess where, I know a couple of departments where chiefs pulled their people out of there because no one knew where anybody was at. And, we had one going with over 1,000 acres, over 50 homes being threatened. And it was like a bag of marbles hit the ground and no one knew where anybody was at. And, I think it's overwhelming to put some of the people in that position that barely run any house fires, let alone a large scale incident. So there's got to be a mechanism. There's got to be a way. And, being able to look on a screen and go, that's where my people are at, is huge, is absolutely huge to be able, we had AVLs where I was at a long time ago to be able to see where the closest engine was and where your ambulances were all hiding at the hospital. And they used to try putting tinfoil on top of the antenna so you couldn't see where they're at and all those different things. But to have that mechanism now, and it's not new technology, to be able to monitor and know where your people at locally, but on large scale incidents is huge. when it comes to that. So that's a
But
great.
It's gonna take, and at least from my perspective, like someone has to drive this, and it's gotta, I mean, to me, TDEM's the most logical thing. You got to tack funding to it, or the eligibility of funding for grants or something like that. It's the one way that everyone had to get through a NIMS class, because you wouldn't be eligible for FEMA grants if you didn't have your people. But like, somebody has to drive this, because I get so frustrated right now, because locally I feel like we solved the problem, and we're not geographically bound by the system that we are using. But if I buy the product from a vendor, I have to buy my geography, or I'm going to pay extra for your geography. And then, but the other thing is, then of course you run into, well, we don't use that system, we use this system. And well, that system's nice, but I like this system. And I'm over here going, like talking earlier about labor and management. So, sometimes you got to give a little, right, for the common good. And that's kind of where I am with this. And I'm such a believer in this technology. And I believe that we are in a place right now, it can be done.
Terry,
it can be done easy.
Terry, you remember what it was like after 9/11, when every chief in our area was in a hurry to go out and buy their own masks. That we had departments right next to us where nothing was interchangeable. Instead of us all getting the same page and buying the same stuff so we could exchange canisters. And you remember TIPMA, you remember before TIPMA, you remember when you say the driving force, it was back to, we were coming, and I have a question for Paul here in a second about that. When we were on the state association, there was really no one, we have more people worried about wearing suits. I'm gonna be, I'm very honest, more people worried about suits and ties and put on their resumes they were president and vice president than they were about making a difference. Terry, excuse me, you remember after we burnt up and killed all them people up in the Panhandle, up in St. Joe, you remember the whole conversation with Rick Perry, when we just happened to sit and I said, you should be embarrassed. This is the great state of Texas, and we have brush trucks broken down all over the place. We don't come together, mutual aid. We don't come. Steve Bass and I worked so hard to change the state mutual aid agreement after the whole Fort Worth debacle, that whole thing. And then our governor vetoed it, and we had the firefighters, so we had everybody on board. And I go, do you know one of your people vetoed the state mutual aid agreement that is going to make it easier for all of us to work together? And you remember, I told him, I said, you mean you can't buy 10 brush trucks, you're fully equipped them, and go, okay, Hood County, you get to, and then he says, put it together, and then boom, TIPMAS was born, and then the whole helping hand, so we've come so far to where I know I'm able to brag about what we're doing in Texas and how we're doing things with the Helping Hand program and with TIPMAS. My question for Paul is, before you're out of time, is what's the association going to do? And I know, and don't take this as a dig, what are they going to do to become more user-friendly for the whole state's fire service? Because I know in my travels, a lot of chiefs that feel that they're not allowed, or that, they feel like they're not part of the clique to be able to say something or bring something up or problems. And I'm telling them, we've got an association, and I will say this about the Texas Fire Chief Association, there's a group of people and they have no problem asking the hard question. There's a group of people in there who fight for the right thing. They're going to fight for this and all that. And then there's a group of chiefs that are just working on their resumes going, I've been here I know one guy, that's all he's doing is working to go he's going to have a new chief's job in a little bit. The only time he calls me is when he needs something, and it's, it's insulting. But then you got these great bosses out there that are trying to make a difference. So marketing wise, and I don't mean necessarily even websites, what are some of the plans for I think there needs to be a little bit more of an outreach to say, we have all these fire departments, this many are volunteer, this much is career. I remember for the longest time, there was only one rep representing all the volunteer fire departments. And the guy, I was just kind of like, I don't think we're representing the whole fire service in Texas. If we're going to, we need to represent the whole fire service. But we need to have a platform that makes it easy for people to approach the president, Paul Henley, and go, I have an issue, but if I bring this up at a big meeting, and say, Marcus, I'm going to get my butt kicked because all these other bullies are sitting here waiting. You know what I'm saying? So that's there's a lot of great organizations out there that have done that, where they've said, and Terry said it about, someone's got to take the lead from that organization. Are there any plans to go, okay, we need to bring everybody involved. We need good representation out there to knock over some walls, to make sure everybody realizes if you're part of this organization, you pay dues, you have an equal say. You have the ability to say what you, and people say, well, they do, but they don't necessarily do, because I talk to them. So I love the organization, but what right there, what do you think?
No, I'm so glad you asked that, because that's another one of the initiatives. Like I said, I've been classified as the Energizer Bunny. I do have a lot of energy. I got a lot of ideas. I can't say all of them are good. Throwing stuff against the wall, see what sticks, for sure. But one of the things I told them early on, and this was at our workshop in December, I haven't even taken over yet. I started pulling people out and say, committee chair, get ready to get to work. We're going to do some work. We're going to do the will of this membership, and we're going to be here for this membership, right? So the regional directors have been an untapped resource, partly because we haven't given them the information about what we're doing. And so for me, I'm using this type of format. I shoot videos and send it out on the Friday report every week. I'm also communicating with those committee chairs more than we ever have. We have a management company that's helping us do that. But Chief, to your point, it's those regional directors that know their territory, right? So now it's my job to give them the information that they need. Also, to make sure I'm listening to the information coming up and what are the things that we need to do in their region to get more inclusiveness, to make sure people are heard, to fix local problems. And for us, Bobby mentioned a little bit, ESD, volunteer, career, we represent all. And we try not to be too heavy in one of those, whether it's municipal or ESD or one or the other. We try to have a well-balanced board to listen to all types. We added a volunteer board member 2 years ago, I believe, to make sure we're hearing all sides. So for me, it's outreach to our regional directors, and then for them to make sure they have every resource they need, because they know who's a member, who's not a member, and that doesn't matter to me. I want to better the fire service, right? And I think when people see what we're doing and why we're doing it, that would want to make them join, as opposed to recruiting. We're going to be doing the good for our members and our firefighters, our chief officers, by being a clearinghouse of information, by being a resource, whether it's forums, videos, website you mentioned, but pushing down information to those regional directors is the key to that, I believe.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that, so many guys run for regional office and a bunch of them are great. They're, you go, God, he's going to be, or she's going to be great, because they're out there with people. They know how to schmooze. They know how to talk to people. They represent, instead of just, I want to be able to put this on my resume. And that's the hard part when you're voting as to who's getting pushed in there. And we've got, between what we've got, look at what we have in the state of Texas. I know I'm kind of partial, but between TEEX, all the different organizations, you mentioned TIFMIS, you mentioned TEEX, with this, and then you've got this Chiefs organization that, everything ebbs and flows. Everything has good, bad. We all know that, but right now has this ability to do some incredible things, some bad and incredible things for the whole fire service. And we can talk, everything from cancer awareness and clean. What works in Miami-Dade when it comes to the clean gear, we're talking about that concept, doesn't work in other, the 2/3 of the country has a winter. And we just being able to tailor things for our region. And Terry kept mentioning, you guys mentioned, when the feds meddle in things, we lose stuff. I was just on the phone with Lori, our U.S. administrator. We talk a lot, and U.S. fire administrator. And one of the things I brought up was, and Terry, you've heard John say it on the show before, is where's our money? We're very, Terry, you're a cop. We're very partial to law enforcement, and I'm going to bring up my buddy John Sulka, who was there for 9/11. Will say, so how many people died on 9/11? We asked in class, and first thing firefighter says is 343, which is not 340. There's 344 if you count Roma, the fire patrol 2, the Jersey City dispatcher, blah blah blah, all the different stuff. Horrible, god awful day. I lost 41 friends that day. Killed roughly 3,000 people, changed the world forever. God bless them. Our partners in law enforcement get billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. What do we get? And then the question is, how many people die? And Terry, we actually did a show on this. Remember with Butch from ISO, how many people die every year in this country due to fire on average? The numbers are there. Only 3 years did we dip under 3,000, 28, 26, I think 25. The rest of them all 3, 32, 35. If you just do 21 years times 3,000, that's how many people have died due to fire in this country. We have a civilian death of 9/11 every year. And what are we doing for it? And where's the money for us? So why I'm proud that we've got an organization in Texas that I said before is willing to ask the hard question. There's a lot of places they just would rather just go with the flow and not cause any ripples, and they're afraid of this. Where, like Terry said, someone's got to represent us. Someone's got to be the driving force to go, there's not a prouder thing in the world than to go somewhere in our state and see 25 different departments in one area from all over the state. I used to say Texas coming to help Texas. Then you bring outside. It's incredible how far we've come. That's why I was curious what the association is going to do, because we're at a great point, but man, there's so much more we could be doing for everybody, with a great organization. Again, doing great stuff, but I'm glad you brought that up and explained it, because the regional directors are the ones that really those are your sales reps, if you will, right?
You're exactly right. And we're actually getting Oklahoma and Louisiana as members as well to help proliferate what we're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, you said it, Chief, it's a national issue as well. And we do need funding, and we as Texas Fire Chiefs will be advocates for that through people like the USFA and other entities. So I'm excited to be able to do that.
And having people like Bobby, different people, Chief Abbott, and people that are willing to, everybody's busy, right? Terry, yours is a little bit busy, but everybody's busy, and to be able to carve time out of your day to have an impact, rather just resume build, to actually go out and make a difference as part of the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, that's huge. And I'll just say that because we're getting ready to teach here again in class in Tennessee. We need more people that are willing to step up. And I'm not blowing smoke. You know me, I don't do that. I don't kiss up to nobody. We need more people that are willing to take time, like you guys are doing, to make a difference. And what we do in Texas, I'll say it selfishly, I travel all over all the time. It's so cool being from an association and being from an area that has an impact outside the Republic of Texas. The Texas Fire Chiefs Association is having an impact outside our state border. And that, I'll tell you, just being a firefighter is a proud moment for me. I'm excited to see where things are going. I've been excited for a while to see some new leadership and some, shaking things up is always good, right? And,
yeah.
New broom sweeps clean, and
they got to the H's, and here I am. So,
well, and I know Terry's been talking about having you guys on for a while. There were some timing issues, some scheduling issues, which is always the problem with the third Wednesday. Then we lost Bobby, God bless him. So to have you come on, but we need more people like yourself and Chief Abbott, guys that are willing to step up and make a difference, not for the glory, but for the women and men that represent our fire service. So thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you, Chief. It means a lot.
Appreciate it. I know Terry, Pete's pretty good with letting you hang over. I'm going to have to check out here and get class going again.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, I think I counted 18 dudes walk by there with big mustaches. So I knew you're getting.
I told them this morning, I said, this is like the best haircut, but best mustache area. They've all like what does Salka say? The rescues in New York City bring two things: tools and mustaches. This is. I mean, look at her. That is an incredible mustache, and he's got it is absolutely.
Great.
These guys get it here. This has been fun, and there's a chief here that gets it. And actually, there's a 95-year-old dude who's a retired chief that just came here to say hi, which is incredible. So, guys, I hate to cut out, but thank you so much, T. I love you, buddy.
Thanks,
Bobby,
Chief.
thank you. Paul,
Good to
thanks.
see you, Chief.
We got to do coffee, buddy. Okay.
You got it.
All right, pal. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Be
you.
careful.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Chief.
All right,
So as we wrap this up, guys, I want to kick it back to each of you and just kind of let you give a closing thought. And before I do that, Chief Henley, so the Texas Fire Chiefs Annual Conference, April 11th through the 14th. Nope, that's 2022. What's the dates for the annual conference?
March 20th through the 24th in Waco, Texas. And
20th through the 24th, and that gives you 2 months off before you have to be to FDIC. So
boom,
the timing on that is perfect.
Well, and I want to invite you to do this show live from down there. I'm going to keep pressuring you. So
right. we'll see if we can. We'll load up our cell phones and headphones and
I love it.
Our abundant amount of technology.
We'll give you an audience.
But anyway, you can find that information texasfirechiefs.org. That information should be on there for that, and it is a great, especially for the guys in Texas, right? So it's a great. I learn more in the hallways and at the nighttime bull sessions there at the local establishments, but it's a great way to meet people and you know what, here to kind of speak to Chief Lasky's point and to tell you that it's certainly easy to sit over here and throw darts. I've been a world champion dart thrower in my time as a firefighter. I've been the guy that sat at I tell people I could win a gold medal sitting at the table drinking coffee and solving the world's problem and telling you how everybody else is failing. I've been great at it. And now I sit in a seat that I think I'm the topic of some of those conversations. I get it. I've been there. And I'm making fun of that. I really am. But if you don't want to get out, step out and get involved, shame on you, right? If it's that big of a deal, it's causing you issues, then reach out to Chief Henley, reach out to Chief Abbott and say, all right, I want to help. Listen, I went a couple of sessions ago. A group of us went several times down there and paraded the hallways with Andy Allison down there because workers' comp's a train wreck. This catastrophic injury. And to your point, Chief Abbott, you talked about, we're carrying the same workers' comp coverage, the same workers' comp attention and focus as a person that files papers in the third floor of a clerk's office. And nothing against those people, but this is a really dynamic environment we live in now and that we're working in. And so there has to be something better. And Andy Allison, that event is near and dear to my heart. And you know what? It irritates me. And I spoke with Andy a couple of weeks ago. I've talked to Les. There's some legislative stuff relating to workers' comp and whatever. And I told Andy, whatever you need, I will drive down there and walk the halls with you. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll sing that stupid song from Electric Company or whatever that was. But listen, get involved, especially if there's something bugging you. So with that being said, Chief Abbott, I'll throw it to you. Got any final words of wisdom for today's show?
I think you hit it on the head. There are people that are looking for opportunity and they don't know how to start, because getting involved with some of this, especially as an association as large as the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, it can be a little intimidating, especially if you've come through the ranks and you haven't been involved politically, or maybe you don't get a lot of support from your bosses to engage politically, because there's a fine line of what you can say and when you can say things politically, especially if you're not the chief, or even if you are the chief and you may have a city manager or board that has you on lockdown and you can't, you can smile when things are brought up, but that's as much as you can do. And I would offer anybody who wants to get in this, just put their toe in the water. Come on in. It's not as bad as you think it is. And there's a ton of people that want to help you, because we need the help. There is enough work to go around. I guarantee you're not taking work from anybody. If you want to come and be participant in one of our committees, whether it be health, wellness, whether it be legislative, there is a ton of work that we have for you. We have it. We're looking for people that are really wanting to make, again, we talked about marks and impacts. We got a couple people making marks, and that's great. But as Chief Lasky said, we need more people who are really ready to jump in and affect some impact. And we're open to it. So either contact any of our associations. If you're outside the state and you're looking to do this in your own state and you just don't know where to turn, call us. We know people. They probably owe us a long list of bar tabs. They owe us. So if somebody can help connect that.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, Chief Abbott, how could they get in touch with you?
Best is my email. I'll put it in the chat. I think the chat is recorded too, right?
I don't think that it is.
Okay. Well, you can look me up.
Read it off here.
Yeah, Abbott, RABBOTT @LTFR.org. And you can find me online too. I'm an easy search, not related to the governor, but I do know him. That's one of the questions I get. But I want to thank you for your time and all the efforts that are put into this. And again, if you want to get your foot in the water, if you're listening today, call us. We'll get you to the right people in the right place. Okay,
perfect. Thanks, and thanks for coming on, especially last minute.
Absolutely.
I appreciate
Not
it.
a problem.
You got a lot of information to share, and that's I get mesmerized by people that I like smart people. I like hanging around smart people because I think it makes me smart. I don't think it really does, but at least I feel smart when I walk away. Chief Henley, you got any final thoughts for us?
Well, again, Terry, I want to thank you for what you're doing with this, and Chief Lasky as well, and Chief Salka. I tell you, I'm just honored to be in this group. I'm honored to be able to serve with and around Bobby, and I'm honored to serve the fire service of Texas. I got in the business 21 years ago, career change. I was late to the game. I started at 33. And I try to pride myself on, I have never stopped serving. My first driver said, don't keep a pace that you can't keep up. And 21 years later, I still think I'm keeping up that pace because I truly want to serve. I want to serve this fire service. I want to serve our members. I'm going to make this better than I found it. And the guys did a great job before me. And hopefully the next guy's going to take it to the next level. We're going to have a pre-conference because we are dedicated to health and wellness. We got a one-day pre-conference with Dr. T. Terry, you may know her. She's very renowned in this area in what she does with mental health and PTSD. And so we're going to have a pre-conference edition. So you can buy pre-conference, or you can buy both, or you can buy just a conference. So the link should be coming out today for that wonderful conference we're going to have. We've got a great lineup of speakers. Keith Jackson is going to end it for us. Yes, he was an Eagle, but we still love him. Several lieutenant colonels will be speaking. Kurt Leopold from the USS Cole tragedy will be there as our keynote. Lots of good things happening. I've got my work cut out. This never stops ringing, but I love it because I'm here to serve Terry, you, and the rest of this wonderful state. So thank you for this opportunity today.
Well, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate everything you're doing. So to our guests out there, we are these show hosts are here every third Wednesday. Our next show should be February the 15th. And in closing, please keep men and women serving in armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. And remember, never forgetting means never forgetting. Thank you. Be safe.
Thanks.
Take care.